that is one of the most critical skills when you're learning how to develop yourself for fighting, and that is how to get offline. People always ask me, what do I do if a guy's in front of me? What if I do if a guy's trying to approach or attack me? And one of the things you want to do is you want to get offline. And the reason you want to get offline is because if you're coming toward me and I can get offline on some angle as I'm moving in, what it ends up doing is it not only allows me to get my body out of the way, but also to gain penetration to at least kind of throw a monkey wrench in your plan. And naturally, of course, I'm going to be protecting my head as I'm stepping, or I'm going to be doing some kind of clearing move or striking as I'm doing it. What I'm not going to do is I'm not going to stand there and then try to parry their hands while I'm standing in the same spot, because especially if they're moving toward me or I'm moving toward them, I got to deal with the momentum. So one of the things I'll show you is I'm just going to stand square so you can get this idea first. So what I want you to see is right here, my line, right? Right here, this is like the center of my body. So because this is the center of my body, from here to here, maybe it's about like, I don't know, 8 inches, 10 inches, whatever the case may be. So I know along this line, if I want to get offline in any direction, I need to step at least about 10 inches. So I don't have to step with a big step or a big full step. I really only need to step half that distance. And the reason why you want to learn how to do that is because if you step too far and you create too much separation from the other person, you may be giving them a chance to get back into the fight. Again, we're not training to fight in a duel. We're training to fight for our lives. So we got to end it as quickly as possible. So as I'm stepping, say I'm here, all I'm doing is kind of getting my body out of the way. Whether I'm stepping or whether I'm shifting my body, I'm just trying to get my body out of the way. The next thing I want to be able to do, because I also want to gain some penetration, is as I'm getting out of the way, instead of just stepping to the side, which may make it a little easier for them to kind of follow me, I'm also going to step in on an angle. And as I'm stepping in on this angle, it allows me to gain penetration while at the same time get out of the way. So it's kind of, 2, 3 moves, so to speak, in one. So as I'm doing this, I can either step, or I can kind of shift, or I can step. Let's see if you can see that, and kind of get out of the way. The other thing I do is I also change the attitude of my body. And what do I mean by changing the attitude of my body? Our bodies are not these stiff things like we're robots. Humans are not robots. Humans have a very organic way in which we move. So as I'm getting out of the way and stepping, or if I'm just shifting my body, I'm just going to shift for now. I'm also changing the positioning, the attitude of my body, tucking my chin, protecting my head, doing these kind of things because I don't want to get hit. And by the way, everything I'm describing, once you practice it enough, you only need to do it for like a microsecond. We're talking about something that happens in microseconds. But the key is being able to move offline from wherever the center is. So even if I'm standing right here, kind of like catty corner, more like a boxer stance, now because my profile is smaller, my body maybe is only this wide on this angle. I only need to shift in any direction a few inches to get out of the way. If I take a baby step, I don't have to step that far to get out of the way. Because again, we're talking about something where it's going to happen in fractions of a second, and I want to be able to quickly get offline. So for example, if I'm dealing with someone, I'm just going to have my Gaishuku kind of stand here, and I'm going to use his fist as an example. If I'm trying to avoid this, because this is not good for me, this is not a healthy thing, one of the things I don't want to do is, I don't want to do this kind of thing because I'm creating this unnecessary separation, and it just makes it easier for him to get his hand around. He's just going to bring it around and hit, or could do that. So what I'm going to do is, as I'm doing, rather than just pushing, I'm actually going to shift. So the rule, at least in Warrior Flow, is you want to move and get in the habit of moving your body first, and before you move your hands. The reason is, if I just move with my hands, well, he can move his hands too. But if I get out of the way first and move my body first, my hands will always catch up to whatever my body is doing. So as I'm getting offline, hopefully you can see this, what I'm doing is I'm just changing these angles, changing my body position first. If I gotta control it, I will. And then of course I'm gonna lay them out. So when you're doing this, you can practice this thinking, my friend. You can even practice this on another training apparatus. So, you know, something like this where you're going back and forth and you're just trying to get into the habit of stepping, getting off line. I like doing it on this because of the fact that I got this line right here and I can always use it as a guide to make sure I'm getting off line. I also like to do it where I'm changing my hands over because, you know, in a real fight, you know, sorry, but the enemy gets a vote, so you got to be able to kind of switch positions. So what you do is you practice this until it becomes comfortable, and you get into the habit of doing it as much as you can until it's just something you do all the time. As I'm clearing, and I'll probably do an episode at some point down the line of how I get in and how I clear people's hands. But the key you got to understand is when you're getting offline and you're doing this stuff, the most important aspect is you know, getting your body out of the way. It's kind of like the movie The Karate Kid when Daniel asked Miyagi, what's the best counter to a punch? And he said, no, be there. And I'm all about that. So you don't want to be there. So this is why we emphasize in Warrior Flow, wherever strikes are coming from, as soon as we feel the direction, just not being there. Doesn't mean we stand there and block it. Doesn't mean that when we get out of the way, we don't do anything. You know, we try to get ourselves out of the way first, and then of course lay the wood on them because we're trying to end the fight as quickly as possible. Hey, I just want to thank all the people and all the new subscribers. I'm enjoying the feedback. I'm enjoying making these videos. One thing I will say is for those people who are watching these videos on a regular basis, if there's something that you feel you want me to cover down the line, you know, just drop me a line in the comments section. But once again, thank you for all the folks who are signing up. Thank you for all the folks and all the support. And I'm going to continue with this series of episodes and just keep building on this stuff because I have a lot of fun doing this stuff. Hey, make sure you're also hitting the subscribe button below.